All right, so for my third video of my personal investment journey, this is counting the cost of a short-term investment. So you're looking at some investment properties and you're honing in on some that you like, but we really need to count the cost of everything that's going to possibly come up before making that decision of whether it's a good deal, whether it's an investment property worth purchasing. Also, if you're not careful, you could be someone who gets into buying a property only to not really have enough money to do the things that need to be done so that it can be one of the premium properties on Airbnb or VRBO. So I'm gonna go pretty rapid fire, just listing things that maybe I didn't think of, or that I did think of but didn't realize, wow, that was more of a cost than I originally thought it would be. So let's just start off with the fact that through this video series, I have talked about using a home equity line of credit to pay for your down payment. So let's use it for instance. Let's say your bank has given you $100,000 HELOC. Now, I've mentioned this before, HELOCs aren't always free. Oftentimes they cost you money. So if you have some equity in your home and you want to take out a loan with your bank, for me it costs $700 and something just to get the home equity line of credit. So let's say, factor in that, let's say you have $100,000 and you have to pay $80,000 down. Now on most investment properties, you are gonna have to pay 20 or 25% down in your investment property. It's a pretty hefty chunk of change. So let's just say your $80,000 is going to go towards the down payment. You're thinking, okay, I'm good. I've got 20,000 or so to play with. The question is, are you good? Because there's a lot of other things that you're going to potentially have to pay for over the course of this. So one of those things is like, not only do you have the $80,000 down payment, but you may have things like title costs. That could be like a couple $1,000s. It depends on if the person who's selling the home is going to cover that or you're going to cover that. That's all about your real estate contract, the purchase and sell agreement that you sign. But there's things like that. There's also earnest money that has to come from somewhere, and that's money that you're going to be putting up front whenever you submit your offer for that home, which can be 1 or 2% of the property. So if you're paying $400,000 for a property, an uncommon amount, an earnest money amount of $4,000 or $5,000 would obviously not be uncommon. So that's another $5,000. So if you're thinking that you've got this big buffer, you may be down $6,000, $7,000 of other costs that come up whenever you're doing this, when you're getting your mortgage and actually purchasing the home. Then after you purchase the home, there's a lot of things to consider. And one of the big things is the furnishings of the home. I think some people don't realize how expensive it can be to furnish a home. So if you buy a home and the furnishings are not included, see, oftentimes when you're doing Airbnbs and maybe you're buying a turnkey cabin, you can actually purchase all of the couch and the bedding and all in the beds and all that stuff for the home. But if you're not doing that, people say to budget between $5,000 to $10,000 potentially per room. Now that can be very, very expensive. Now what I did, and mine came furnished, but honestly, I just wasn't liking the vibes of the furnishings. I did keep some of the things, but I'm going for like this modern rustic feel in a cabin. And some of the stuff just seemed dated and kind of like this traditional cabin-y vibe, and I wasn't going for that. So I was getting rid of things and was not selling it quite as well as I thought I was going to be able to. But what I did, instead of, going down to X furniture store and paying $1,500 or $2,000 for a couch, that can be super expensive. I went on Facebook Marketplace and I bought a genuine leather, beautiful couch for $400 instead of $2,000, which to me makes a lot more sense when I'm considering that there's going to be kids probably jumping on the couch and doing things like that. So unless I have this like high-end luxury, short-term rental, then, things are going to happen and I'll feel a whole lot less bad. I don't know if that's right English or not. If a $400 couch goes out than if I'd spent $2,000, $2,500 on a couch and it got broke somehow, right? So think about that. And I ended up actually packing everything, buying it all on Facebook Marketplace where I live, and then my cabin's 4 hours away, driving it in a U-Haul, paying $200 and something for U-Haul, and actually driving it all the way up to Gatlinburg, and then I had outdoor furniture and all this kind of stuff. So think about that, not only inside in like living rooms and beds. Don't forget in bedrooms, You have to pay for mattresses. You have to pay for dressers. Like, this stuff gets expensive. But also the outdoor area. Like, do you want to have an outdoor couch? Do you want to have some rocking chairs? Do you want to have a little bistro set? Like, you don't want to have nothing probably outside, depending on what you're buying, especially if you have like a balcony or something like that. So factor in all of those costs of all the different furnishings. And again, I recommend, going on Facebook Marketplace or buying this stuff secondhand, because you can get it for way cheaper. I mean, I spent maybe $5,000 or $6,000 on furnishings and different things like that, as opposed to potentially, $20,000 or $30,000. Also, along those lines, think about your wall decor in the house. So there may not be, you don't want to have just blank walls with nothing on them. So what type of canvases might you put, or art that you might want to put on the wall? And that stuff can get costly, but I actually found that going on Amazon, and they have canvases that are cheap, and like some wall art that's pretty cheap, and like I did pretty well. Do you want to have plants, anywhere, fake plants? You probably don't want to have plants to water and stuff. Those things can be expensive. I mean, you can spend anywhere from, $20 for something small to hundreds of dollars for a big, fake plant. Do you want that vibe in your place? If you do, factor it in. Like, that decor can end up being several thousands of dollars. Okay, another thing to think about is looking at the age of some of your major parts of your home, like the HVAC unit, your roof. Make sure, like my cabin, man, the HVAC unit is at its end of life expectancy. I'm hoping that it goes for a long time, but it's, I think, 15 or so years old. Yeah, it's 15 years old, and that's about its expected life. And so what I ended up doing personally is I asked the sellers to buy me a home warranty, which for 1 year covers all my appliances, including my HVAC. And I would, if it were to go out, I would pay a deductible, and then at that point, they would fix the entire HVAC unit, and it wouldn't cost me any more than a few $100s for the deductible. Now, I will say I don't think that a home warranty is an end-all be-all. I think they can be frustrating to work with. I also think that oftentimes it's not worth paying a few $100s deductible for a dishwasher, when maybe you can go on Facebook Marketplace and buy one for a few $100s and just get it done. Because oftentimes home warranties they're a little lengthy sometimes to get someone out there to do the work. So just think about those things, because last thing you want is to buy a home and a few months in, your HVAC unit goes out and you've got to replace the whole thing and you have no money set aside to do that. Okay, so I've talked about furnishings, I've talked about HVAC units and stuff. Oh yeah, how about this? Let me take a drink of coffee. I think I'm going 100 miles an hour, I feel like. Okay, what about towels? What about bedding? I replaced all the bedding because, again, it had this kind of traditional, like, flannelly vibe, and I wanted, like, modern look to my cabin. And so, like, getting sheets and comforters and pillows and throw pillows and all this stuff for the beds, that really can add up. Towels, like, if my cabin can hold 8 people, my cleaner, I talked to them, said they'd at least like us to have 16 towels so they have a little bit of play. And guess what happens? People take the towels, things happen. And so, buying 16 towels, 16 wash rags, and then hand towels and different things, there was often times where I was going to, Walmart or Target or Bed Bath & Beyond, whatever, any of those types of places, and dropping $300 or $400 regularly. Pillows, like, are there pillows there? And if not, pillows can be expensive, especially if you want to offer a variety of firmness to, the people staying at your place. You don't want them complaining that the pillow's too soft or the pillow's too hard. It might be good to offer both options for them. All right, so that stuff can get actually, fairly pricey. And then when you're thinking of your cleaners, you need to know what they're going to supply. So now maybe you're the one cleaning it, and if you're the one cleaning it, obviously you're the one supplying all this, but are you going to have, little bar soaps or whatever in all the bathrooms and at the kitchen sink? What about paper towels? Are you going to supply, oftentimes, most Airbnbs do like an initial paper towel roll or 2 just to kind of get you kick-started. How about toilet paper? You don't want people showing up to your place and there's just no toilet paper there. I'm not saying that you need to provide, 24 rolls, but I provided mine 2 rolls per bathroom. So that's kind of a starter supply, a roll of paper towels to start them. Excuse me. And you just got to know about that. So for me, And my cleaner provides those, but I pay a premium for my cleaner to provide those for my folks. Also, some homes have KEURIGs. And if you have a KEURIG, do you want to have a starter pack of, 6 KEURIG pods or something for your people? Those can be pricey. Those can be expensive. So just think through like what it would be like to arrive as a guest, and what are the things that you would like to have, ready for you there. If you want to have extra toothbrushes, you don't have to provide those things, but if you want to have some of those items in a closet somewhere to where if someone forgot them, then, have those. So just think through those types of things. Also, repairs. Guess what? Unless your home is new, and even if your home's new, unless your home's new, there's going to be things that come up that as you're preparing your Airbnb, your short-term rental to go on the market, you're going to find out, like this happened to me, my dryer squeaked so dang loudly. It was so obnoxious. Like you could hear it upstairs and the dryer's downstairs. So I had to call an appliance guy, and thank God it wasn't that bad. It was like $120 and he came out to the house and fixed it. But that happened. Also had my heat and air unit begin to leak into the hallway. And I'm like, that's so frustrating because I had a home inspection, didn't show up on the inspection. But what it was one of the pipe, the traps had got gummed up, and it just I guess, reached max capacity over the several weeks from when he showed up to when I was there, and it was leaking everywhere. And so I had to go to Home Depot, and I had to get that fixed. My dad helped me fix that, but if I had to pay someone to do it, that could have been several $100s. So I would budget several $100s to $1,000 for unknown repairs. You may have a toilet that doesn't flush very well. Do you want to have that in your short-term rental? A terrible toilet, or a sink that is leaking, or something, or maybe like a faucet that's just kind of old school. You just want to kind of change that out real quick. Just think through those types of things. Also, how about locks for doors? One thing I did not consider was the fact that the door lock to thy front door was actually owned by the property management company that was managing the cabin before I bought it. So they come and they're like, hey, how you doing? They took my lock off my door and they replaced it with another one, but it was like a key lock. Well, what I decided to do for this cabin was I wanted a Wi-Fi key lock. And the reason I decided to do that is with the Wi-Fi key lock. Now, this was $250. That's why I'm bringing these things up. I thought it was worth it. I mean, I could go buy a regular lock for $30 or maybe just the key numbers ones for $60 or $70. But I thought the $250 lock was totally worth it. And there's other ones that were cheaper. I ended up spending that much because I had to have it that moment and I couldn't get it shipped to the cabin on time. But that allows me to create codes from my phone, 4 hours away. It also allows me to, then when I'm creating codes, like I have a code for my cleaners. And so I can know when my cleaners show up. I can know when they leave. So what does that tell me? How much time are they spending cleaning my cabin? If they spend 10 minutes every time, I'm going to start questioning, like, what are you actually doing in there? Also, I can create different codes and change the code from my phone for guests. So maybe I have a guest that gets frustrated because they throw a party and I say, hey, you can't do that. Maybe they want to come back and do something to my cabin. I can change the code after they leave to a completely different code. And that way the next guest that comes in has a different code and they no longer have the code. So I like having that flexibility. And so for that, it was totally worth it. Also, I had a recent guest that never locked it. Never locked the cabin, and I can just go click and I can lock it at night and just lock it for them. Maybe they didn't know how to, I don't know, but they didn't do it. So that was super worth it for me. How about turning on utilities? That can be really expensive. Like if you remember like buying your home and for this cabin, I was blown away. It cost me $800 just to turn the electricity on. When I had to fill my propane tank, which I expected this, and that was $400 and something. So I had $1,200 of expenses just getting the propane and the gas going. So I'm hoping that I'm telling you this not to scare you, but to prepare you, because I don't want you to be in a situation where you're like buying this cabin, your house at the beach, or this condo downtown or wherever, and you are penny pinching because you just can barely even turn on the electricity. Because also what you'll have to realize is, hey, when that mortgage payment comes, it's going to be hitting. And so you've got to get that thing, you may want to get that thing on the market as soon as possible so you can start getting revenue as soon as possible. So to end this, a few recurring costs to think about. If you're putting it on Airbnb, they're going to take about 3%, all right, of the amount that you're getting. On top of that, if you do VRBO, they're around 8 or 9%. So that can be significant. On top of that, you're going to have to pay taxes. And so, there's taxes for having these short-term rentals, and they can be, around even 10%. So you're using VRBO, you could be paying close to 20% in taxes and VRBO fees. That can be very significant if you're trying to figure out, is this investment property worth investing in? How about, do you want to provide any type of television service to your guests? Do you want to have cable or Xfinity, or I've got YouTube TV, how much is that? You're going to pay $65, $70 a month for that. How about internet? Most people that are going to stay are going to want internet. I have heard of Airbnbs that say internet-free zones out in the country, and that's fine. That's well and good. I think that's really cool, actually. But if you don't want to run the risk of people going, oh, I don't want that, then you're going to have to provide internet. So you may be looking at $150, for internet access and for, TV, for Netflix. So you can provide Netflix, Hulu, any of those options for your guests. Those are monthly costs. Of course, you got all your utilities, your gas, your heat, your water, and all that stuff going on. And then don't forget that you're also going to be paying a mortgage, and if you use a home equity line of credit bill as well. So, say your mortgage is $2,500. Don't forget that you may have a $400 a month minimum payment on your HELOC, and that's not even paying down the HELOC. So think about that. And then lastly, are you going to pay any type of a property investment, company to run this thing? Now, if they do, oftentimes they can charge 20, 30, 40%. So you need to kind of factor those in as you're looking at these homes and going, is this the right move for me? Because if you don't plan on managing it, it's going to be expensive to have someone else manage it for you. So I hope that none of that was to scare you. I hope it was all to prepare you. Hopefully you can learn from, my journey that I've been on. If you have any questions about any of these things, go in the comments and ask away, and I'll be able to hopefully do my best. I will do my best at answering those questions for you. I'll see you next time.